Hello gang, welcome back to Model Behavior, and we are well on our way to Sabretooth in the red zone. We've laid the groundwork, now it's time to lay a little more groundwork, but it's all about the journey, not the destination. By the way, I'm rocking my Macho Man Randy Savage cup of coffee in the big time, yeah. It's one of my favorite t-shirts. That's really, people ask me, what's the hardest thing about making YouTube videos? And it's deciding, right, it's gig time, what t-shirt am I gonna wear? That's why you can only entrust certain people with these do or die decisions. So, when we last left off, Wolverine had pretty much lobotomized Sabretooth in one of the coolest issues ever. You just saw all about it. So, we go to the Age of Apocalypse, we come back, and what is the status quo? Well, Wolverine is refusing to stay in the X-Mansion. Why? Because Victor Creed is still alive. See, we didn't know because the healing factor of Sabretooth had not been pushed to that ridiculous limit where you're like, he can recover from anything. You don't know that. So when he had a claw pop through his brain, you're like, whoa, is he gonna survive? What's gonna happen? Yes, he is alive, but he is essentially Jack Nicholson at the end of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He is not there anymore. He is just this, not catatonic, but kind of animal-like. He's playing this kind of like a puppy, confused sort of creature, really. He's kind of finding himself for the first time. And again, the X-Men and Xavier, being the philanthropists that they are doing everything in their power to help him, recover and maybe sort of even have a clean slate in life now. Again, Wolverine is outside the mansion saying, I call bullshit. He's saying this ain't legit, and he's not alone this time, particularly Gambit. Gambit has a long and sordid history with Sabretooth, and he doesn't buy this act for a second. And even if he does, he's not going to let Sabretooth get away with his past crimes. So he has a real problem with what's happening, and he confronts Sabretooth, and he makes him acknowledge and face up to all of his past sins. He uses the Danger Room to create these holograms and images, basically replaying all the awful things that Sabretooth has done and making him acknowledge who he is. Now, this is a really interesting sort of moment because you see this sort of childlike Sabretooth acknowledging these past events, things like Birdie and what became of her, and it really is, it's interesting character study into this person. On the flip side to Gambit, we have Boomer or Boom Boom. I'm not sure what name she was going by at the time. Either one was probably terrible. But she sees Victor Creed in particular as a project, as someone she wants to help. She wants to reach out to him and see the good in him and feel that he can be rehabilitated. Let's take a quick look at her figure. Unfortunately, I don't have the figure itself. That's one that is missing from the collection. This specifically is an X-Force figure. She was a member of X-Force. One thing I really enjoyed about the X-Men in the mid-90s was all the different teams would mingle and interact within the mansion itself. So it wasn't unusual to have a member of X-Force show up in the X-Mansion. So I refrained from buying her figure because I don't need to go down the X-Force rabbit hole. But it's a decent figure from what we can see in the pictures. Got a nice bright color scheme. This is her earlier X-Force costume as opposed to the one that she was wearing when we have these Sabretooth interactions. But she's got the nice bubble gum, the sunglasses. It's a fun, funky figure. So that's pretty cool, but we won't dwell on that too long since I don't own it. So yeah, we basically have these two juxtaposing characters. We have Boom Boom and we have Gambit. And as for Gambit's figure, this is a really, really nice figure. This was one of the figures that made me want to get into collecting the 92 X-Men. Because I was like, I've got so many X-Men now. If I branch out into getting the full sort of animated series lineup, then it gives me an excuse to get Gambit. Why do I like the Gambit figure so much? Why not? I mean, come on. First of all, the face sculpt is terrific. I mean, they just capture the Cajuns so well. You can just picture him being like, oh, hey, hello there, Sherry. Let me make inappropriate gestures to you in a Me Too type capacity that will not age well when you rewatch the cartoon. I have no idea what this accent is. Anyway, He looks terrific in the face sculpt. He's got the nice sort of wash for the stubble. The eyes are perfectly portrayed. The hair, it just looks bee's knees. Gambit looks terrific. Also, he's got the long black trench coat, brown trench coat that was used for Multiple Man as well. That looks awesome. And more importantly for me, he's got the bright pink metallic paint job. And I love these shiny metallic paint jobs. Whether it's metallic or translucent plastic, it's one of those two things that's going to make me see a figure and be like, I gotta get that. I've got to add that to the collection. So Gambit looks great. And of course for accessories, we get some decent accessories too. He's got his retractable bow staff. That looks great, although it's very thin for his gripping hand, so it will fall and slide in and out of his hand unless you position it just right. Also, he's got his wonderful throwing cards. He's got the removable hand where you can replace, so it's like in mid-throw of a whole bunch of cards firing out, which just form this arc. Looks so great to pose with. And he also has a teeny tiny card accessory, which looks great. But I shudder to think how many collectors have lost this accessory. I swear thousands of these must have been sucked up by vacuum cleaners over the last year or so, because it is teeny tiny and it will fit just between his two fingers and it falls out so easily. I have to watch that accessory like a hawk whenever I rearrange my shelves. I'm like, don't let that out of your sight. But yeah, notwithstanding, Gambit is a great, great figure and one I'm so pleased to have in the collection. So between Gambit and Boom Boom, we have these two opposing people, and we really have to see who's going to be proved right. Is Boom Boom right for seeing the good in everyone and believing that people can be rehabilitated? Or is Gambit right for believing that a leopard doesn't change its spots? Or a Sabretooth? Nah. Ultimately, surprise, surprise, lo and behold, Victor Creed is still up in there, and he is as evil as ever, if not more so now. Because we're about to get a couple of very scary revelations that are so cool. First of all, Sabretooth is essentially rumbled. Because what happens is, they keep putting him in the danger room, and they'll have these holograms project beautiful, serene, natural environments for him. A woodland forest with deer and rabbits and, singing birds and all kinds of nice things to calm and soothe him. And Jean Grey, the resident telepath, goes into his mind, and what does she see? Horror! She sees dead animals and carrion and carnage and, not the Spider-Man villains, but just horrific imagery, and she realizes, oh no, Victor Creed is still in there and he's messed up, and to use wrestling terminology, he's been playing possum this whole time. And essentially, they call him on it. So they confront Sabretooth, they restrain him since the jig is up, basically. And, they say, dude, we know you're putting this on. And Sabretooth's like, yep, you got me, suckers. And now that he's been rumbled, he just indulges in this. He's like, yeah, guess what? I got what I wanted because I proved to you that I can't be fixed. All your talk about making the world a better place and rehabilitating people doesn't mean jack, because I'm still the same person I always was. If not, I'm worse. And this really affects Professor X. This is a bit of a turning point for him. The whole post-Age of Apocalypse sort of arc for Professor X is building up to his major heel turn as Onslaught. And his failure, his outright failure to redeem Victor Creed really impacts on him in a powerful way that reverberates through to his frustration that ultimately bubbles over into Onslaught. So Creed is just loving this moment. And eventually, of course, they decide, well, he can't be rehabilitated, so we're going to have to kind of throw in the towel, essentially, and lock him up and send him off to the authorities because we're done here. But before they can send him away, Boom Boom decides that she wants to confront him face to face. And, it's a powerful scene because she is heartbroken. She feels betrayed, let down, like she put her trust and faith into this guy, and he's just reveling in the fact that, yeah, you shouldn't have. I screwed you. and you were an idiot to do so. And now while they're having this back and forth, Psylocke is watching from the control center, and she's trying to give Boom Boom the chance to just get this off her chest and do the right thing. But as this conversation goes on, she can see that Creed is getting under her skin and he's riling her, and all of a sudden she realizes what it is that he's doing. He's baiting her, he's goading her into using her powers, and Psylocke can see what's going to happen. And she uses her telepathy to say, like, don't do this, don't attack him, don't sink to his level, whatever you do, don't break him out of... Too late. Sabretooth just sticks the knife in and she lets rip with her powers, and when she does, she blasts him out of his restraints, and oh no, all of a sudden Sabretooth just lunges up, and he's this hideous, terrifying beast of a creature, and just before he can sink his teeth, or his claws, what have you, something sharp and nasty, into Boom Boom, Psylocke leaps in to her defense, and she is just a consummate ninja. Speaking of which, let's take a look at her figure. So the Psylocke figure, I don't have either. She's getting more and more difficult to get hold of, and I'm just waiting for a re-release. But it's a terrific figure. It looks the part. It's a female character that has an expressive face, you know, and that's such a difficult thing to get sometimes. The color scheme is terrific. I love her luminescent pink sword. Basically, she has all these features that make me really want to have the character, and I don't yet. Come on, Hasbro, give us a re-release. Anyway, back to the recap. So Psylocke is having this back and forth showdown with Sabretooth, and it's an intense and brutal fight scene. And, you know, Psylocke gets a few hits in, Sabretooth gets a few. It's a bit of a cat and mouse kind of thing. You know, Sabretooth has taken a few hits. He's not given out that many because, let's face it, with claws like his, if he did land a hit, it would be game over. And that's what's tense about this fight. And he has Psylocke where he wants her, and that's where we have the moment. That's where Psylocke uses her power to conjure up her sonic blade. She jams it into Sabretooth's head, which should soothe and end his murderous bloodlust. But it doesn't. And that's where Sabretooth reveals his ace up his sleeve. He tells her the glow, the same glow that Birdie gave him, which soothed these impulses, don't work no more. And ironically, why doesn't it work anymore? Because Wolverine lobotomized him. And Wolverine, the only lasting effect of that claw through the brain was the fact that the glow that ends his psychotic rages has no effect. And that's where Psylocke realizes, I'm screwed. And it is quick, brutal, nasty, and Boom Boom has to watch. And that is what brings us up to Sabretooth in the red zone. And now he's out, he's escaped, and it's up to the X-Men to capture Sabretooth and bring him to justice one way or another. One way or another? I think what I meant to say was by any means necessary, or something like that. If I'm going to try and sound all dramatic, I really need to get the expressions correct. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm sure a bunch of you are going all Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park and thinking, excuse me, dunk dunk. Are there any Hasbro Marvel Legends reviews in this Hasbro Marvel Legends video? Yeah, sorry about that. I got a little bit excited about the comic and just ended up speaking about that. But there was kind of a Gambit review in there, in some shape or form. That's something that I always do. I get a little bit carried away and sidetracked, and hopefully that's part of the charm of these videos. But I promise in future editions it will be more Marvel Legend focused, with comics on the side and not the other way around. But you know what? It all depends on the feedback. So comment, let me know what you think. And yeah, next we're going to tackle the actual issue, Sabretooth in the Red Zone. And I will individually go through the figures that we haven't covered yet and take a deep dive into them, where they come from, how they look, how they're represented, and what I love about them. And I'll see you guys then.